Hello and welcome back to another video. This one is concentrating on irises. As you can see, I've got a large bearded iris here. This particular variety is Black Swan. It flowers well, and with all bearded irises, they're almost indestructible just as long as you follow some certain rules. Right, rule number one has to be direct sunlight touching the base of the bulb, or the rhizome, if I'm 100% correct. Likes to be baked all day, and keeps it flowering, keeps it happy. Now, it's a very easy plant to look after for anyone who's not really a sort of, well, I say a gardener. If you garden, you're a gardener. But anyone who hasn't got a massive amount of experience in gardening, this is generally a very good plant to have. It doesn't need a lot of water, doesn't need any particular sort of chemicals or anything for keeping bugs off. They tend to fight off most infections as well. There's a couple of simple rules. One, loves being in direct sunlight. Two, make sure that it doesn't get too wet, especially in the winter and the spring months. It doesn't want to be waterlogged. If you have heavy soil, you can still have them. Either put some drainage, some gravel, break it up a bit so it's in an area where it's not being waterlogged, or if you've got heavy clay and you don't want to start changing your soil too much, put it on a bank where it can grow up a bit, because obviously if it's high up on a bank and everything's draining down, then it will remain dry. So yeah, don't need to worry about watering it generally. Don't really need to worry about feeding it. Maybe give it a bit of a water when you first put it in, and maybe a water if you've got it in a pot. Now, they don't like pots. The way this is at the moment, this should theoretically not be flowering, because it's cramped in, but it's happy and it is flowering. Importantly as well, with looking after them, if you feed them too much, you end up with a lot of leaves and no flowers, because they figure they're going to survive, they're okay, what's the point of flowering? So treating it mean to keep it flowering is a good idea. Now, in terms of this one here, this is an example of what these turn into if you leave them in full shade. I've left this in full shade for a year just to give an example of what shade does to these. So this is, they are different varieties, but this is a bearded iris and it should be looking like this. Full shade, no sun, this is what they look like. So you do need to make sure that they're planted somewhere nice and sunny, and they will thrive. They'll do very well. This is a good example. If you don't do things right, this is what you're going to end up with. Okay? Right. Another thing about doing things right, this plant here was this size last year. So if you do things right, firstly, it would do well. Secondly, to buy a little plant like this, I think I spent £3 on it. So what, about $4.50-ish last year, which isn't a lot of money. And especially if you're just starting out and you want to do a bit of gardening and you figure, well, the plants might die. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, it's a very good idea to buy something small. Look, put it in the right position, and you'll get a nice specimen very quickly with irises. And the next thing is that we can, what I'll take you through in a minute is how to separate them using the lump of irises that aren't doing very well. And we'll put them in some pots, and just give you an example how to separate them. So for instance, in maybe another couple of years when this gets a lot bigger, then I'll dig this up and I'll separate this, and it will encourage fresh growth, more flowers. Because ideally you want to be splitting them about once every 3 or 4 years, and then at the same point, if you've got a friend who wants some, then you can put them in pots, maybe swap them with a friend, or maybe just give them out as presents to friends, family, if you have some spare. So anyway, what we do now is I'll go and get some pots, and I'll get some scissors, some secateurs, and then I'll explain to you exactly how to separate them, and then show you sort of putting up a couple of examples. And then after that, if you're still watching, which hopefully you are, we'll just sort of show you basically how to clear the ground, put it in, and we'll go through that as well. Alright, So, onto this, another example of treating badly. I'm not sure if it's in focus. Is it in focus? Right, it's in focus. Right, I've left this out for at least 12 months. It's been on my list of jobs to do, and then I realised I could actually use it for a video, so I've just left it there. Right, now, the thing with this is it's been mistreated for a while. I actually got this out of a skip. The people that lived there were clearing the flower bed to make space for cars, because if there's one thing the planet needs, it's more space for parking. Anyway, so as you can see, certain bits of it are a bit knackered, but we'll go through it, we'll cut it up, I'll show you the good bits, the bad bits, yeah, you can see it's been left out all winter. It's been down to what, about -10? I don't know what that is, probably about 30 degrees in the other one, and it's still survived. It's basically had no soil, and it's been left in a really bad position for it. It hasn't liked it. But just to show you, even if you do things completely wrong, it will probably still survive, and then you can basically find a better place for it, move it along, and then hopefully it will succeed in the next year or two. Right, let's go through it. Now, first of all, show on the camera, if you want, you don't even need to use secateurs, but you can tidy it up. If you try pulling them apart, they tend to just pull apart. As you can see, there's a nice sort of lump of free there. I won't do too much, because I think once you see a couple done, then that's enough for you to get the hang of. There's another bit there, alright, and then if I try and, it's quite difficult around the basey bit, right, I'll try and get a couple more out without using any tools. Okay, so that's 2 more out. Right, now these things grow fast, alright, as you can see, you've got the rhizome here, which is what basically needs to be baked in the sunshine to give it loads of energy. You've got your root system here, and then you've got your leaves here. Right, and again, same in a slightly smaller combination. Both good plants. Right. Firstly, what we want to do, so it doesn't rock about in the wind, almost everybody does it the same. Cut one cut here, cut one cut here. Right. This way, it doesn't work as a sail, because we don't want to bury this. If you look, all we're going to do, we're going to plonk in just on top, okay, just on top, alright, leaving that for the sunlight to hit it, and it'll be a lot happier. Right, again, we'll grab hold of this one, alright, this is an older piece, so we could take this off, but we'll leave it here for now for stability. It's got a nice bit growing there. They can sometimes go rotten, but considering how I've treated this plant, it's very unlikely to go rotten now. I'm going to give it far better conditions. Right, so snip there, snip there, snip there, snip there. Alright, what I'm going to do, because the camera woman's giving me an earful, because I keep going up and down and it's irritating her, and she's having to work hard and think, right, and I'm getting an earful. Right, so this one we'll pull it apart again. Right, if you want to, a nice sharp pair of secateurs, you can just tidy up the cut. Alright, try not to rip any of the roots off. We want as many roots as possible. Alright, and again, I prefer scissors, but if you got those secateurs don't work at all well for that. Some of my other secateurs are a lot better. Just use scissors, people. Right, as I always say, there's a mess up in all the videos. If you can spot it, let us know in the comments below. Right, so we're plonking in here. Camera woman, are you happy? Right, camera woman's happy. Right, next lot. Right, we've got a couple different lumps here. So this big lump here is not great, so I'm actually going to cut this bit off. Okay, so just a little lump there, still a few little roots. And anyone wondering, lump is the horticultural expression for it. The camera woman's wandered off laughing, she's not taking it very seriously. Right, this is very important stuff, Kelly, keep focused. Right, We snapped another bit off, and then let's see what else we can snap off. This is a brown bit. This isn't really what you want to keep. We can keep this, so we can chop this bit off. Alright, this is old. It's not going to do as well, so we chop this one off here. Right, okay. If you look, again, nice strong stems. They've got another new one coming here. Roots look good. The rhizome looks good. No holes, no discoloration. Nice and firm as well. If it's squidgy, chuck it, because it's starting to go rotten and might affect the rest of the plant. Right, so scissors again, because we tried the secateurs and they didn't work. Right, so chop, chop, chop. Oh, done 2 for 1 there. Chop. And we'll tidy that one up there. Right, and we'll plonk. Move this one slightly, and this bit slightly. Right, and just bung them in compost, round a little bit. Right, now so basically this one here and this one here, now all that you really need to do at this point is give them a little bit of water, put them somewhere where a cat isn't going to suddenly start digging them up and using it as a toilet, or a puppy's going to grab hold of it thinking it's a toy. So until they're properly rooted, it's worth just making sure that there's no animals that are suddenly going to start moving. But this is basically all you have to do now is find somewhere sunny for them, and then what I like to do is I actually like to get them to root in the pot. I left this one a bit longer than normal. Normally by now I've planted it out, but it just got sort of left. So anyway, so this is how to do this bit, and now we're going to plant one. This one, to be particular about it. Right, anyway, moving on to the next bit. Right, so time to plant the iris. Hello, right, time to start planting the iris. Right, first thing, check the area that you're planting it. Make sure that the plants around it aren't going to cast shadow all over the rhizomes of the plant. Next thing to check, I've got a lot of bark chippings and some other wood pieces down here, so we want to clear that out ready. Right, it doesn't have to have any particular feed in there. In fact, feeding it too much isn't good, as previously explained. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move some of the soil over a bit, because at the moment there's a little bit of a hollow here. So we're going to move the soil over to flatten it off, because we don't want it sitting in a hollow, because in the winter if it gets wet and soggy in the spring, it's not going to do it any good. Well, so it's not going to do it any good in the summer either. It wants to remain fairly dry around its rhizomes. So what I've got, I'll sort through it a bit. It's actually quite going to like it. I've got a bit where I started digging and I found some rubble and some bricks and stuff in it, and because it's quite good for drainage, I'm actually going to use that as part of the planting. So get a bit more up. Right. I'm not going to plant whole bits of this or put whole bits of it in with it, but it wouldn't hurt. I've got quite free draining soil, so don't need to worry about the drainage too much. So now we've got it about level. Alright, there's a little bit of bricks and stuff in there. I know it seems weird putting some soil in before you start digging, but if you get your level right, and then all you have to do is put the pot for the plant in at the same height as the pot. Whereas if you plant in a hollow and then you fill it up, you might end up filling over the rhizome. So the idea is we get the soil level height right, then we put the thing in, and then it's easier. We don't have to dig it up again. Right. We grab hold of it. You don't have to be incredibly gentle, because the stems don't tend to want to snap off. but obviously you don't want to smash it about too much at this stage, so pull it out fairly gently. The irising, obviously you can pick what direction you want the flowers on it, or flower, or sort of how you want it. Alright. Then soil around it. Just have a quick check just to make sure that you haven't slightly covered the rhizome up anymore. Check you're happy with it. Don't go treading it down, alright, because it should naturally fall down a bit. If you can see massive holes around here, then you might need to fill it in a bit. Because it's well rooted and it's been in a pot, it's got weight to it already, so we don't need to cut any leaves off. We can just stick it in, and yeah, it should just grow and be happy there, and then separate it when it needs to in 2 or 3 years. Anyway, that's about it. It's nice, simple, easy. Any problems with your own ones, please comment below and I'll try and help you out if I can. Alright, thanks a lot for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and something about a bell, but never